Hello, role-playing people! In this episode of the podcast, we're going to talk about keeping things narrative, descriptive, and how players can take the lead in these matters. When possible, of course. Why are we talking about it? Because time and time again, I've seen players so easily seduced into talking rules or requesting roles when they should be describing what the character is doing. For example, the characters have just opened the door to a dark room. What do they do next? The storyteller asks. And the player responds, I roll perception. Please don't do that. Please don't do that. This question is not meaningless. Obviously you want to know what's inside the dark room, but your approach to it can make all the difference. Maybe one character barges in and runs straight into the middle of the room. Maybe another is looking for the light switch, and another is tapping the floor with a 10-foot pole, making sure there's no illusions or spiked pits. Depending on what's inside the room, your approach to it makes a difference in the result you are going to get. So please describe what the character is doing. The mechanics and rules are there to assist the storytelling, but they in themselves are not the story. Don't worry about what and when to roll. Your GM is going to tell you. Speaking of GM, notice how they always do their best to narrate an event, play a character as well as they can, and describe the world as accurately and visually as possible. Well, you can help maintain that immersion by simply returning the favor. Don't request roles. Describe actions. My character will anxiously slide their hand along the wall looking for the light switch. As simple as that is, it sounds a lot better than I roll perception to see what's in the room. Immersion and mood will constantly suffer if instead of keeping the focus on the character, you narrate what is happening at the table. I roll this, I drink water, I play with my dice. Yes, everyone can see that, but what we want to see in our mind's eye is the frightened character and their trembling hand looking for that light switch. But players can also keep things immersive and take the lead when it comes to narrating the results of certain roles. Not many, because a lot of results are GM dependent. When it comes to interacting with things that are external to the character and not under the player's control, yes, the GM needs to step in and say what happens. But consider the following situation though. A player has their character crafting an item. Both player and GM know the rules for crafting and what each type of result on the roll affords the character. Now, from what I've seen, a lot of players make the roll and share their result, but wait for the GM to narrate further. Why? There is no need. As long as you both agree on the rules and the degree of successes, the player is more than capable of describing the result. It doesn't need GM input. You are making the roll for a character who has a certain degree of skill and who works with X type of materials using Y type of tools. You can keep things immersive and narrative and descriptive without GM intervention. You can say something along the lines of, after X time spent in the workshop, the character emerges with a custom-made, brand new Y type of item, which is the color Z. It is clearly of superior quality and is beautifully ornate in a very W style. Easy peasy. Now, some GMs want to be in complete control over narration and details and so on. It's perfectly understandable. But personally, I really enjoy seeing the player's interpretation of the result on the die. It leads to quite beautiful surprises. Of course, when the system used is easy to understand and the rules are clear. Yes, then I always enjoy letting players take the lead. But while we are here, some descriptions do indeed rely on the roles, like the crafting example I've just mentioned, but most don't. Other times, the player just needs to describe what the character is doing and hope for the best. That is how most roles work. I mean, I have the perfect example. A lot of people I've played Vampire with over the years express their desire to use Dominate on an NPC, then they roll for it, and then they issue the command on behalf of their character based on their successes. No, that is a mistake. There is no way your character knows how effective the command is unless they try it as well as they can and then try to figure out the effect it has on the target. This is the vampire example, but it easily applies to any game. So don't tell me you charm that person or dominate that individual. Show me through dialogue. Show me what the character says and how they say it. Do your best. Stop playing it safe, because that's not how the game works. Constantly waiting on the result of the die or the input of the GM, that's a very reactive type of play. And most time it does nothing but draw attention back to the rules and the systems. No, lead the scene, show the character, use narration, description, and dialogue. Well, you don't really have to be honest, but if you don't, it's going to be more of a board game and less of a role-playing game, which is also fun, but it will lack the storytelling element. When telling someone about an RP experience you've had, would you rather say you rolled 10,000 damage, aka mechanics, or would you rather say that the attack that ended the fight was devastating, cleaving through your attacker's weapon and beheading them in a single strike? I know I will always take the second option. So there we have it. This is my extremely brief and not entirely important or serious manifesto on keeping things narrative, descriptive, and having players lead as much as possible if the GM and the group enjoys or allows that. I find it really helpful with immersion and mood and keeping players connected to their characters. Thank you very much for listening. Take care, have fun, and don't forget to play.